Good morning, everyone. I'm thinking it's calm enough today that I can come back outside without doing the wind tunnel thing of the last time I live streamed, and apologies for that. What a mess that was at the end. Let's start today with the beginning of the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This prayer can be so valuable to so many, so much of the time. And it seems exceptionally powerful and valuable right now with the pandemic, and particularly in the city of Las Vegas. I start right here for a reason, because that hotel that you can see right there off my shoulder was the site of a shooting in October of 2017. And oddly enough, I just decided to move to Las Vegas 10 days before that happened. And when it did happen, it caused such an incredible surge in strong emotions. Grief, guilt, confusion. All these things were calling for a pastoral response. And the response can be elusive. A good pastor has to admit when she or he is baffled. And a good place to go when we're baffled, when we really don't know what to do, is to ask for serenity and just to hold that. Hold our non-knowing in serenity and ask for God's wisdom in God's time to direct us to be pastoral, to be loving, to be healers in God's way, in God's time. The Serenity Prayer will help us in that. At the Epiphany Church, a pastoral care class was begun 2 weeks before the pandemic. I believe it was going to be 12 weeks long. And after 2 weeks, we were all quarantined, and what the head pastor, Rick O'Brien, did was deputize the whole class of 18 people as pastors, fully aware that their training had just begun. But that's how it is sometimes. We had 16-year-olds fighting in World War II because a demand and a need was seen. So, with the training they had, out they went. And I have to say, God is so good. The Epiphany church members have been incredible pastors. I've gotten calls from several. And they are truly loving, truly caring, and they've got the most important thing right. They must have learned a lot in those first 2 classes. They listen. Listening is love. Listening is an acknowledgement that you don't have a one size, one style fits all of being a pastor. For instance, at the October shooting, if you were to pastor to someone who just lost a family member, that would be very different than pastoring to someone who has a survivor's guilt because they were right next to somebody they didn't know. It would be very different from pastoring the manager of the Mandalay Bay, who very legitimately could be concerned about all his employees, including legal ramifications. That sounds insensitive, but the dead were dead. And that could be a very real fear and worry for someone in that. And as a pastor, you don't judge. If somebody's feeling a huge change, a huge conflict in their life, that's the place where we need to bring the love and attention. In terms of the coronavirus, I'd like to say something to all the people who've been deputized as pastors. And remember, in Judeo-Christianity, we are all priests, we're all pastors, we're all ministers, we're all rabbis. When you feel sufficiently loved by God, in that knowledge that God loves you is a call to love others, to love neighbor as self as you love God. So Millions of us right now have been deputized as pastors. Let me make one little practical suggestion. When you're contacting people, be especially aware during a quarantine, if you're calling a household, think in advance, is this person alone or do they have a family? It's a huge difference to how you'll approach that pastoral call. The chances that they're lonely and it's really starting to cause pain are obviously far greater than when a family of 6 is all hunkered down together and watching The Sound of Music for the 10th time. It's a different environment. Both, however, can have lots of pastoral needs. So, again, this might sound obvious to some, but I would recommend all of you pastors, before you call, before you text, before you email someone, check in with God real quick. Maybe say the Serenity Prayer. And think, God, what does love desire of me? When I call this person or these people, direct me, God. May love direct me. And may I call there listening and inquiring to find out where change has brought pain, where it's brought confusion and conflict in their life. There may be no health concerns, but huge concerns about loss of work. Ask how change has affected and then listen. Remember, too, that praying is optional, not required. Not every household is at a spot right now thinking that God can help them. As much as you might think it, that doesn't necessarily mean others do. It could be the best way to represent God is simply to listen, say, I was thinking of you, I love you, goodbye. But if you offer prayer and they accept, having a couple ready to go might be a really good thing. I recommend the Serenity Prayer. And even more highly than that, I recommend this. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.